Hey guys, it's Denny with Why Is This True? And it's sunny but cold. So I got out in the sun, and that's why I'm not in the shade and silhouette anymore. But same perspective, back in the agility field, what have you. So anyway, it's nice to have the sun, and I'm sitting on the asphalt out here, so it's a little warmer. It was actually we had frost out here this morning, which is kind of interesting. Although about time for it anyway, I guess. Now that we're in November. Um, so I titled this live stream "Save a Lot of Time," and I'm continuing to be impressed as to how mind control is such a prevalent feature of what's going on right now. And we had a really controversial channeling session with Carl recently with Stephen Paddock and the whole Las Vegas shooting thing, and that was very interesting. It kind of blew up, and so much so that I had a list of questions that I had going in, and I wasn't really satisfied. So I sent an email to Carl, and we decided to do another like follow up as a result of some channeling session he did with Creator. So it's pretty well documented. There's 2 videos out on that. There's quite a bit of comments on the YouTube channel. I think there's some stuff on the members page on whyisthistrue.com. And so anybody might want to check it out, but it's definitely one of the more controversial things that we've done so far. But that, I think, the take-home message from that whole experience, irrespective of which side of the fence you're on in terms of the features of the false flag aspects, is its mind control is playing a huge part in that whole scenario, all false flag scenarios. And there seems to be like a thematic or paradigm change around the whole false flag thing, and that is the agenda around it, or some of the salient features around it, is that the alien faction is taking a much larger role in terms of putting it on, and the humans are kind of like the confused bystanders, like promulgating more disinformation after the fact than actually being involved in the false flag itself, which is, for me, a very hard pill to swallow, because that's not how I've envisioned false flags. But I think with the Santa Rosa fires and the Las Vegas shooting, that's kind of like the opening volley, giving some of us perhaps a new perspective on what false flag actually is. And it's not going to follow the same patterns and methodologies that we've seen with with ones like 9/11, maybe even Sandy Hook and some of those other ones. And admittedly, I've moved away from the whole false flag, like following them and researching them and looking at all the different videos and stuff. I kind of dropped that. I guess about somewhere between 5 and 10 years ago. I just, false flag, I know we just kind of move off, and I had other things that were interesting to me. I know that probably sounds strange, but that's the truth. So this Stephen Pollard thing, or Paddock, the Stephen Paddock issue was, I don't even know his name, was kind of a distraction for me, because I had to go back and study a bunch of stuff that I just wasn't looking at. So anyway, and then another interesting thing that came up was I've been following this guy Jamie at plaintruth.info. It's a YouTube channel. I guess he's got a website too, and I think he's a local guy. And he's been following the Santa Rosa fire like white on rice. He's been doing a really good job. A lot of on the scene stuff. Very involved politically. He's looking at the whole Agenda 21 stuff, the technology, the directed energy weapons. The acronym for that's DEW. So if you see the term DEW, that's what that stands for. And so I got on his. Actually, I think I saw it through Elena Freeland's her website, her Facebook page, which has to do with chemtrails and whatnot. I'm not sure if I saw it there, but anyway. Lo and behold, there's John Lord, my friend John Lord, who I've kind of like lost touch with. He's moved up to Lake County. He and I and my wife Jennifer, way back in, I think, in April of 2015, if I'm not mistaken, started the the meditations, the weekly meditations that we used to host them in this redwood grove right back here. And so some Sundays at noon, it would just be John, Jennifer, and I standing sitting out in this grove of redwood trees. And so he was with me when we found Elizabeth Whitney, and we actually did a presentation on the event, as described by Cobra, up at the Sebastopol Grange. And that was in May, I think it was May 28th of 2015. We had about 50 people show up. And as a result of that, we had a larger showing for the weekly meditations. So a lot's happened since then. But there's John, really cool, getting interviewed by Jamie up in, I think, his home up in Lake County, in John's home up in Lake County. So I got on the horn, got a hold of John, had a 1 hour plus phone conversation with him night before last, and it was really interesting to see the path that he's been on since we kind of each went our own way, and what I've been up to. So he got an earful. We're going to hook up. I got to send him a list of questions. We're going to do a follow-up interview. We're going to get into some more details around this fire. So he's a fire captain. He's been training fire captains and a whole bunch of other stuff around the ET first responder stuff for almost 30 years. So he's retired now and lives up in Lake County, about an hour's drive from here. And so he did this interview with Jamie. Jamie did a great job. But we're gonna dig down a little bit and start to look at some of the specific issues that would make a guy like John go, hey, this is something other than a normal structure wildlands fire. You know, vehicle fire, structure fires, wildland fires. He knows about all that stuff. I know a little bit. He knows a lot more than I do. But what I'm gonna do is develop a bunch of questions and send them over to John, and we're gonna talk about mind control. We're gonna talk about melting aluminum, structural steel, stainless steel, granite countertops, why the Army Corps of Engineers in there, bulldozing foundations that might still be usable, or portions thereof that might still be usable for rebuilding. They're basically, in my opinion, destroying a crime scene. We're going to talk about smart meters, and we're going to talk about the information that was revealed in the channeling session with Creator about the Northern California fires that I did with Carl, where the perpetrators were identified as aliens and not the Air Force as some CIA black projects thing, or some collusion between dark factions of humans and like the ICC and aliens. Apparently this was just an alien operation with gobs amount of mind control piled on humans for as icing on the cake, I guess. So anyway, that's another video you can watch if you haven't seen it yet, which is going to kind of be the underpinning for what I do with John, and hopefully we'll get that interview up within a week or so. We'll see how it goes. He's pretty busy, so am I. So first thing I'm doing is get those questions over to him. So what else is going on? Oh, okay, so I have a store on the website where I sell giclée prints of my paintings when I was a painter, and I used to do a lot of seascapes. And so the store also has a mug with the Why Is This True logo on there. And we're trying to get some clothing on there in time for Christmas. So it's been a total headbanger. So I reactivated the effort, as they say in the Navy. Frank, hey, Frank. Thank you. Someday I'm going to go back to the Carolinas. Frank's a great supporter. Surprised me with an amazing gift that came in the mail. So where was I? So anyway, there's some women's tops, there's men's t-shirt, there's a hoodie with the logo, nothing fancy, just it's got the Why Is This True logo on it. And so we're going to try to get that store up and running in the midst of a website handoff, if you will. I'm trying to get the website moved over to a new manager, new person to help me with the website. So that's still it's still kind of limping along, but hopefully we'll have the store up in time if you're a Christmas kind of person. Jen and I are becoming less so. We just got rid of all of our Christmas decorations, so boxes of stuff went bye-bye, and so no more lights in front of the house or any of that kind of thing. I think it's kind of I've got nothing against Christmas, but she and I don't have kids or grandkids or anything like that, and it's just anyway, it's either started out as a satanic holiday, or it was hijacked as one, or the whole commercialization thing. that's a whole nother interview. Anyway, the other thing is that Carl is working on a book. Carl Mollison, the guy I do the channeling sessions with, he's working on a book, and he's finding it very hard to cut free time to actually work on the book. So, in an effort to help with that situation, we're changing the interviews that I do with him. We had him every Tuesday and Wednesday, and I would usually get both of them up by the weekend. And we're going to go from 2 to 1. So it's not good news for me. I'm not too happy about it. It frees me up to do some other things that I'm behind on. But I think it's going to help Carl get his book done. And plus, there's some other projects in the works that I'm involved in, and hopefully it'll carve free some time for that to move forward too. For instance, he has mentioned to a couple people that he is going to have an online version of his Lightworkers Protocol course online within 6 months. So that's kind of a daunting schedule. I mean, that puts us in March, and all you need to do is blink, and March is going to be here. We're already in November. So anyway, we're going to go from 2 sessions to 1 per week, and so that means I had to throw out more names, and the schedule got up. We had it before going up into like early January. Now it's going to go out to March. So I just wanted to read real briefly the names that we have on the list. This is not the approved list, but this is the one that I submitted to Carl. And there's some ones that we took off that I'm kind of upset about, but that's just the way it is. So anyway, the next one coming up is William Tompkins, who Carl's already done a check on Bill Tompkins, and he was in the light. He did not need a spirit rescue, so that's really good news. So that's on November 7th. On November 14th, we have Max Spears. On November 21st, we have viewer questions for Creator. I already have 2 pages of viewer questions for Creator. I'm going to talk a little bit about that after I get done with this list. On November 28th, we have Aleister Crowley. On December 5th, Admiral Richard E. Byrd. On December 12th, we have Joseph Stalin. December 19th, Adolf Hitler. December 26th, the day after Christmas, Lee Harvey Oswald. And on January 2nd, the day after New Year's, we have Marilyn Monroe. And then on January 9th, we have another viewer questions for Creator. That's January 9th. And then on January 16th, we have John Lennon. On January 23rd, we have John F. Kennedy. And on January 30th, we have Nikola Tesla. On February 13th, we have David Rockefeller. On February 20th, we have Pedro Lopez. I think they called him the Monster of the Andes. That's on February 20th. On February 27th, we have David Koresh of Waco fame. And then on March 6th, Jeffrey Dahmer. So that's the lineup right now. That's the proposed lineup right now. So it's not, I haven't gotten back from Carl because we have to double check and make sure all these are primarily safe subjects. Sometimes we run across subjects that aren't safe to be doing this kind of thing with. Okay, so yeah, Bill Tompkins was in the light. He did not need a spirit rescue. I got a very interesting email from a viewer who he's a busy guy. He's a writer, and I just wanted to read what you wrote to me. And then because a lot of the questions he asked, we've actually already covered this information, but I'm not sure how concise it's been. I can't read this. I'm in the sun. I'm sorry. I see some comments here. Anyway. Thanks for your comments. I got one guy who actually does screen captures of this and sends them to me later, so I get to read what you wrote here. And it doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it does, and I try to read those. But I'm in the bright sun now, and I can't read the little. And by the time I get my nose up there to read them, they disappear off the screen. So YouTube's got it dialed in, right? You have to be multitasking. And I'm a male, I can't multitask. So anyway, okay. So I'm going to read this real quick, and this is about Bill Tompkins and about the whole Nordic issue. As far as Bill Tompkins, the most important question that I would ask him is this. He says that there were benevolent, young-looking Nordic women who helped him design advanced spacecraft and propulsion designs after World War II by putting the thoughts into his head. Bill claimed that these good Nordics stepped up to assist the World War II allies in order to create a sort of balance with the malevolent reptilians who were allied with the Nazis, and helped the Nazis with the European war, forcing Nazis to regroup in Antarctica and South America. But Carl and Creator insist that no ET appearing on our Earth, and it's not Carl, it's just Creator. Carl Carl admittedly, and you'll see this from the early interviews, was kind of hadn't studied the ET issue that much, other than him knowing that they were in existence. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So back to reading here. Creator insisted that no ET appearing on our Earth plane is benevolent ET, including these Nordics. So how would Bill now reconcile this? Does Creator insist that these Nordics were not benevolent because while they did assist the U.S. and our allies to defeat the Germans in Europe, the Nordics did so because of their own selfish agenda? And then the Nordics allowed the Nazi infiltration of America's scientific community and ultimately allowed the creation of a deep state as part of their selfish agenda. Why have the Nordics allowed this interplay between them and the reptilians to continue for 70 years, allowing the population to become more and more brainwashed? In short, were the Nordics who came to our assistance truly benevolent? Or were they really working toward their own selfish agenda and it happened to coincide with our best interests in the 1950s and 1960s? But thereafter, their Nordic agenda no longer coincided with the best interests of humanity, and they allowed the secret space program to be corrupted and remain hidden along with its advanced technology. And then he continues, while you're at it, ask Bill to delineate between the negative Nordics, say from Aldebaran or the Agarthan inner Nordics, who openly work with the reptilians, from the positive Nordics who worked with Bill in the 50s, or the Anshar inner Earth Nordics as noted by some SSP insiders. Are the positive Nordics truly positive, or does Creator consider them to be not truly benevolent because they have their own agenda, which happens to coincide with humanity's at this time? And so just real quickly, I have a lot to say about this, and I'll try to get through it in a reasonable amount of time. But most of this stuff that was brought up in what I just read has already been covered. It's already been revealed in the channeling sessions with Creator or with certain individuals that we've been interviewing, light beings. A lot of this has been handled already. So I'll get back to that. But one thing I wanted to point out is that on page 369 through page 371 on Bill's book, this is Selected by Extraterrestrials by William Tompkins. This is his book that he put out. He has a little section here. It says 4 types of aliens, where it's about 3 pages long, or actually 2 pages long, but he never really answers the question, or it's inferred. But it says right on here 4 types of aliens. And in this section, he says, I thought back on how Douglas operated and came to the realization manufacturing at DAC, whom I thought were supposed to be pushing us in the right direction, were possibly working against us, and even more than we realized. Whenever our work started to come together, their snide remarks could set us back so much so that our progressive ideas were left in the dust. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I came to the conclusion that some of the Nordic aliens in the Douglas shop who I thought were helping us may be disguised reptilians, and this could be happening here in NAA too. And then Thorpe said, Bill, you look like you've seen a ghost. All of the color just washed out of your face. Douglas might have really worked you over. And then it continues, and then he says, he just knows it. When any of you guys see a real alien, the Greys, the ants, or the insects, you damn well know it too. Absolutely no question. But if they're Nordic, who looks just like humans, you will not know it. They really are Nordic, beautiful light-skinned people who look like movie stars. They may be reptilians appearing as Nordics who have the ability to change into human-like people. I remember when I first met Jessica, she had long blonde hair, and she stared into my eyes much longer than is normal, knowing my thoughts. I was wondering what was out there, and she said telepathically, no, you don't know what to know. You don't want to know what's out there. She said some of those black hats are ghoulish killers, worse than any of the worst murderers we have on this planet. So I read that because I think he was speculating even back then that the Nordic thing wasn't really what it's been portrayed as in an overall sense. Duke Brickhouse is the author of these questions, and he actually wrote an article about this where the Nordic question was brought up. I think it was one of the first articles that went on to exonews.org, and so it's kind of a conflicting narrative from what we've heard elsewhere, particularly in Dr. Sala's book and some of the stuff coming from programs that you might see on Gaia TV. But what we've learned so far from the channeling sessions is that the Nordics are working with the reptilians. The Nordics are actually Arcturians, and they are the creators of the Greys. So the 4 main alien groups interacting with humans with a negative a negative agenda are the Anunnaki, the Nordics, also known as the Arcturians. They also like to be portrayed as Anshar or Inner Earth people, and the reptilians. And then the creators of the Greys is the Arcturians. The Greys are soulless beings that do endless amounts of abductions and DNA experiments on humans, hoping to be able to crack the code for their own well-being. That's a whole other story. So those are the four groups, with the Anunnaki usually being at the top of it and managing from behind the scenes the activities of the Nordics and the reptilians. So that's what we've learned from the channeling series with Creator so far. So I think one of the things that's kind of interesting that we all have a tendency to do is when we talk about the 50s and 60s and the U.S. military and the government, and we use this term "we," which for me is kind of like almost a symptom of how effective mind control is. So what we have to be concerned with is in using that term is that the government by that time had really departed in many ways from the interests of the overall population. That's not true across the board, but using that term "we" can really confuse matters quite a bit. So I try not to do that. There's the U.S. government, which is quite separate from the population of the United States. So for me, that helps kind of keep clarity around, logically thinking through some of these things. So a lot of the answers to the questions that were brought up in this little missive can be summarized in insofar as that the Nordics were playing a role. The Arcturians were playing a role as Nordics with the government, the Navy perhaps, but in some ways they kind of paved the way for the reptilian takeover, which happened in the scientific community and ultimately in the U.S. government. So, of course, we don't have all the answers. There's probably a lot of details that are missing from this whole story, but that seems to be the general thing that we've learned through these channeling sessions. And I understand there's going to be a lot of disagreement about that, but I could just, this is what we got so far. Take it or leave it. Okay, so Bill Tompkins. We're going to be doing the channeling session with him. I'm going to be working on those questions today and tomorrow. I'll actually do the interview with Carl on Tuesday, and if anybody has any suggestions for questions, I'm open to them. You can leave them on the members page at whyististrue.com. Just comment on I'll probably turn my notes here into an article, and you can just go ahead and reply. I'll try to do that today too, and you can just put suggested questions for Bill Tompkins there. And Bill Tompkins has been channeled, I guess, and all I can say about that is a 99% rule applies. Okay, so we got through that. Oh, and the other thing that Duke mentioned that I thought was kind of interesting was that he said the most interesting thing lately is adding Dulles to the list of those who were killed off and replaced by reptilian imposter. And I agree. I think that is probably, for what we need to be paying attention to now over the next several months and maybe even beyond, is the fact that this reptilian replacement thing is probably a lot more common and prevalent and widespread than has previously been thought. So kudos to David Icke. I think that guy is getting vindicated every time you blink. He's coming up with he has come up with something years and years and years ago that people used to laugh at, and now we're getting a better handle on some of that stuff. And it turns out that he's right about a lot of things. I don't think he's right about everything, but he's right about a lot. And on the reptilian score, he seems to be getting an A or a B at least. So Alan Dulles allegedly was killed off during the war. He didn't give us a date. If I had to guess, I'd say probably 1940 to 41, somewhere in there. Killed and replaced by reptilian, which kind of makes sense if you look at the history that he's got as it relates to the U.S. government, CIA, and all the Black Project stuff, and perhaps maybe the relations with the alien agenda factors. And then the other thing that Duke mentioned, I actually got an email, and I talked to him on the phone this morning, was that he says it's interesting to note that all of the news I hear lately about the Republican probe what the Democrats were up to internally during the 2016 campaign still matches perfectly with what I surmised in my first two articles about Seth Rich. So he's working on the third installment. I think it's the third and final installment, and these are on exonews.org. And these are this is like a summary of the channeling session that Carl and I did with Seth Rich, and that was also very controversial. There was a lot of disagreement about the portrayal that came through in that channeling. Okay, so we're wrapping this up now. Okay. So the other thing, Karen, bless her heart, just finished an article that we put up on. It's actually a list that we put up on the members page, and these are all of the viewers' questions for Creator through the channeling sessions that started back in April of this year and continued all the way up to October. So what we're doing, the idea here, and I think this originated from Kevin. He suggested that we list those questions so people could go refer to them to see if their question's already been answered. So what you'll see there is a date, a header, and a link to the actual interview, and then you'll see the questions and a timestamp. So you can go directly to the timestamp and see the question and see the answer. And so it's all the questions for Creator that we started with back in April all the way up to October. And so I think there's four or five videos that this pertains to. So now we have a place where we can go see the viewer questions for Creator, see the questions, and then if you go to that video and go to the timestamp that's on there, then you can actually see the answer to that question. So I think it'll be very helpful. I haven't got that many repeats, but I got 2 pages of viewer questions for Creator right now for the channeling series, and the next one's going to be, I think, on November 21st. So that's the next one coming up. So I'm not going to get to all of them because there's just too many. We can usually do between 7 and 11 questions without it running up past an hour and a half, 2 hours. Okay. And the other thing I've been doing, especially today, I went for a walk, which I don't do. I need to do more of that. I need to get more exercise. But I went for a walk around here where I live. And I was thinking about the what we call the protection prayer, and I'll just say it. Source Creator, partner with me in my life each and every day to keep me safe, to guide, heal, support, and protect against all who oppose, bringing forward the truth of the divine. And I was taking apart that. I can't read those damn things. I'm so sorry. I was kind of like taking apart that prayer and thinking about each part and what it's saying, and more importantly, what it's not saying. And it was really interesting to do that. Especially the last part, I gave it a lot of thought. And protect against all who oppose, bringing forward the truth of the divine. And I think that part right there is very interesting, and not so much in what it says, but what it doesn't say, and in what our proclivities are as humans in doing the blame game, which I get accused of quite a bit in my questions that I come up with for the channeling subjects and the creators, and it's probably rightly deserved. But anyway, you might want to spend some time with that prayer and just kind of parse it out and think about each part of it. Like, what does Creator mean when he says heal and support and guide? And what does he mean when he says protect against all who oppose, bringing forward the truth of the divine? What is he protecting you from? Who are those who oppose, bringing forward the truth of the divine? Anyway, it's rich. So I encourage people to really meditate on that prayer, because there's a lot of revelations that could come from that time well spent. Okay, so let's wrap it up here. So some of you know that I send my perspective lists of interview subjects separate from the list of channeling subjects to Carl, so he can do a channeling with Creator to find out if it's safe and if it's beneficial to the overall purpose and theme of why is this true. Now, when this initially came about, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be had some third party, and how arrogant of me to say Creator even. But to be honest, I didn't like the idea. But over time, I started to realize that there was some huge benefits in doing this. One of them was the safety issue, because I had been in a situation months ago where a person was killed. and as it related to my YouTube channel. So that kind of sobered me up a little bit and made me think about this more seriously. So, so the safety issue was important, and then of course if it's beneficial to the all overall purpose and theme of why is this true. So, and I get some surprising feedback when I compare my guesses for thumbs up versus thumb down when I compare them to creators, and I find that I'm only correct about 49% of the time. So slightly less than half of the time that I say, oh, creator's going to give a thumbs up on this person, or creator's going to give a thumbs down on this person, and I make my guess and I compare it to the results that we get back from the channeling session, and I'm not even right half the time. I'm slightly less than half that I'm right. So that kind of sobered me up too a little bit. Now, in most cases, the inquiries, and this happened at a time when I was thinking about doing follow-ups too. So this included people that I'd already done interviews with, and I'd send the name in, and I'd come back, it says a thumbs down, and I go, oh, okay, well, I was going to do a follow-up with them, and then I end up not doing a follow-up with them. So it's an awkward position to be in because it's very antithetical to how I started my channel. So anyway. So most inquiries, they die on the vine, and I'm not in a situation where I have to explain myself or confront anybody or anything like that. So I've been spared that up till now. Now I'm in a situation where people are coming back to me and saying, "Hey, what about the interview?" And they were on the list for thumbs down. And in some cases, in most cases, I'm giving some explanation for why that's the case. And it's never mandated, never mandated. So I am totally in a position where I can take someone that I want to do an interview with them, and I can do the interview with them. No problem. I'm up to over 30 minutes already, so I got to wrap this up. But I have chose not to do that yet. I've chose to go ahead and take the advice that I'm given and go with it. So I'm open to suggestions on how I handle this. I'm not interested in hurting people's feelings or ostracizing them, but I am interested in being honest. So I'm in a sticky wicket right now. I know I'll figure it out, but if you have any suggestions, brilliant or otherwise, I'm open to them, and you can do that on the comments section on Why Is This True, the members page, and when I post this. So yeah, I'm in a bit of a quandary about how to handle that elegantly and politely, which is the way I want to do it. So coming up, I've got two MAP people coming up. MAP stands for Mercenary Army Program. We're using that acronym to replace SSP, which in our estimation is not accurate. My estimation is not accurate anymore. So this was suggested by, I think, in one of the channeling sessions. MAP, Mercenary Army Program. One from China and one from Australia coming up this week, this upcoming week. So, and I did a follow-up with Will Glover recently that was a total joy, and we posted that. And coming up on early December, I'm going to do an interview with, you see it? Teresa. She's doing some really cool stuff in conjunction with Justin at Stillness in the Storm. She had one out today that was kind of cool. And so I found her card up in McLeod when I was up there for Eric's thing. So she had some of her cards were still up there. So I grabbed one of her cards. So Teresa Llaneros, she's in Texas. So she's a journalist, speaker, and visionary. And she has a YouTube channel, and she does a lot of cool stuff. So that's going to be in early December. She and I are going to get together for an interview. So let's see if I can read this. My printer's not the best. So on a positive note, I can sense that more people are becoming open to the idea of the alien agenda and the extraordinary and extensive use of mind control, and are becoming more informed about the free will experiment being conducted here on Earth. So I don't really have any empirical data to back that up. It's something I'm sensing from the comments and subscribers and things like that, feedback I'm getting on Facebook. And so anyway, that's very encouraging. This stuff is not easy to digest by any means. So so thanks everybody. Thanks for watching. I'll try to get this up on the members page today. And thank you for watching. I love you guys. Have a great Sunday. Bye.